Nature has a calming effect. Being here amidst the trees and the nice white wall, all these pathways that lead through and through, across rivers, across bridges, across streams. The nature of it is beautiful. It's so calming. It's so collecting. It's so relaxed. And in the busy world of today, with all the cars rushing past, sorry, there's a mosquito on my beautiful nature. With all the cars rushing past and everyone rushing to and from, rushing from the shopping center back home, then to a shopping mall to buy more groceries, then to come home, it's a nightmare from hell. And so being in nature, where I am, with beautiful plants, this one is thyme, this one is an agapantha, on a beautiful path, in a quiet, almost forest-like setting. It's very calming. It sets the mood for relaxation, for pensive thought. And so my mind settles on a famous poem by a man called Robert Frost. He wrote a poem which was in a forest, and it goes something along the lines of, I was in the forest and two roads in the forest in the wood diverged, but I chose the one less traveled by. And that's an interesting little point. Two roads diverge in the wood. Imagine over here, here's a path, and there's a path there, and there's a path there. And in the wood it diverged, it split. And he took the one less traveled by. Most people in life, for example in this forest, will go down that road. Other people will go down that road. And in life, the common path might be school, into university, into a job. Maybe you have a family, 1 or 2 kids, retire, relax as an elderly person, not much money left over, and you basically pass away, move on, and then your children repeat the cycle. That's the path that most people travel. For example, most people travel the path where they will buy normal groceries, live in a normal house, have a normal car, have a normal job. Everything's normal. Everything's a flat line. And then some people take the road less traveled by. Some people start YouTube channels. Some people train to become bodybuilders. Some people become master snowboarders. Some people want to build a big business and become CEOs of these massive oil companies. It just depends which road you take. And I think, personally, a lot of things have been predetermined for you. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where in the world. If you're on the African continent, if you're in India, if you're in Asia, if you're in the Americas, if you're in the United Kingdom, as I love to say, your life has been determined. Somebody before you has already said, I'm going to have my child or my grandchild be here. Or perhaps the conspiracy theory of having elites who control your life or control your information. That might be true. But the point is that there's a path that's been laid out. For example, I want my children perhaps to grow up in the United Kingdom. Don't really want them to live in South Africa. I want them to grow up in the United States. And so if I get a job, I have a job, but if I get a better paying job or start a business and be able to fund that life when I move to the United States, then my children will grow up there. And they won't really have much choice for the first few years of their lives until they grow old enough to get a job, to become financially stable, and then they can move wherever they so choose. So in that regard, I would have predecided and predetermined for them, like that path that Robert Frost was talking about, that is the traveled by path, that the path that most people do take. So we can just extend that, not just to be location, but it could be, for example, let's say a government's nefarious mode of control, to control the food you eat, to control your intelligence, to control which areas you live in. I don't know how deep it runs, but if it applies so simply that I can choose what school my kids will go to, because, for example, let's say I went to St. Jack's High School. I want my son to go to the same high school as me. So I put him in St. Jack's High School, which just so happens to be in Port Elizabeth, for example. He is going to end up growing up in Port Elizabeth and going to St. Jack's High School, even if he didn't decide it. If it's as simple for me to do that, can you imagine the government? Can you imagine elites with millions of dollars, all the resources, all the networks? So then it leaves a big question. How much control do we have over our lives? What has been predetermined? Is it merely a discussion about our location being determined? Or was it almost our economic status that was predetermined? Or the area that, or the kind of the culture that we would have? Or our religion? How extensive is it? So then okay, there's this path. that's been determined for me, my religion, my culture, a lot of things, even race maybe, I don't know, but religion, that's actually a brilliant example, race. But this one path, everything's been determined. My school that I'm going to go to, perhaps who I might even marry. They arrange marriages in some religious sects. And then there's the other path. Even language is an example of that. And then there's the other path. The path of, for example, but in order to take the other path, you have to know. He said 2 roads diverged in the wood. He knew that there were 2 paths. He knew the one path was the one that most people go by, and the other path is the one that he chose. And what did he choose? The path less traveled by. He chose the path that most people hadn't gone through. So let's look at an example in South Africa. A path that most people go through would be that they go to high school and then they get a normal job in a call center, or on a factory floor, or as a secretary. And they go to school. Maybe they go to many that go through will go to study in university, study accounting or become a professional. That's just a typical example. Many people in South Africa will learn to speak English. Many people will adopt a kind of hardy culture. Most people go down that route. But is it possible in South Africa, for example for me, to learn another language? What if I wanted to learn Spanish? What if I wanted to start a business, like start a nightclub? That would be a different path. What if I wanted to be a business owner, not just be an employee? What if I didn't want to go to university, let alone not go to school? That would be me choosing a different path, for better or worse. Now, in that poem, I haven't read the whole thing, but I don't believe that Robert Frost talks about the outcome of his decision. He says, he says, 2 roads in a wood diverged, and I took the path less traveled by. But he doesn't say what the outcome was. He didn't say that through taking the path less traveled. He says, and that has made all the difference. But he doesn't say what that difference is. He doesn't say, this allowed me to supersede all of my competitors, and so I built a conglomerate of oil mills, like flour mills. He didn't give us an example. He didn't say it helped him to build a beautiful family, or it helped him to make good relationships. He just said that has made all the difference. And so that would be a good way to close. I want you to think about the different paths. How much of your life has been preset? And then what would you like to change? And then go and decide whether you want to do the path that most people have done, that tried and tested, or try your own thing. Maybe it's you want to start an e-commerce company, and most people say no, you must. Or let's say you wanted to start a casino. Most people don't do that. You start a casino, for example. But then the second question after that is, what difference will it make? And that's not just something that I can answer like this. It's something that you need to dedicate your life to. Are you going to go down the path everyone else does? Or are you going to choose out of the 2 roads in the wood that diverged, the path less traveled by? Because that will make all the difference.